Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AMNP and Mona's second virtual advocacy day. First one we tried, we had a lot of fun with it, but unfortunately on that one, the legislators were tied up in session, which is not typical for them to be in session past noon on Thursday, but lo and behold, imagine our surprise when they decided that they wanted to go ahead and stay in session the day that we scheduled that first virtual advocacy day. So this is our second one. We appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to participate in this. We do realize you guys have very busy schedules and certainly want to be respectful of your time. So we'll get things going here. I'm Derek Leffert, CEO of the Association of Missouri Nurse Practitioners and one of your lobbyists. And I'm going to let Kyna and Heidi introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Heidi Lucas. I'm the director of the Missouri Nurses Association. We're excited to have everybody here today. AMNP and Mona have been working very hard on your behalf this legislative session. And so I'm going to introduce our lobbyist, Kyna Iman, and let her say hi.
Hi guys, thanks for jumping on the call this morning. Derek and Heidi and I have been busy over at the Capitol trying to keep things moving during the session, and so we're happy to have you join our advocacy efforts. Thanks.
And then the legislators will join us here in just a little bit. First thing we're going to do is we'll go kind of through a really brief summary of the bills, kind of where they stand, where they're at. And then we'll invite the legislators on. I believe Representative Schroer's on right now, but he's hidden in the background until 10 o'clock. So you'll see him. Also, Representative Kelly, Representative Grier, and Senator Burleson are planning to join us as well. So some things may impact that. I did get a text from Hannah this morning that said that she possibly is going to have to dial in by phone, but we'll just see where things go. But they're not in session right now. That's the good thing. So just a couple of housekeeping items here before we get started. There is a chat function on your panel. In the upper right hand corner of your screen, you're going to see kind of the user interface for the GoToWebinar. Unless you are a panelist or a organizer, your cameras and your microphones are muted. So you won't be able to, we won't be able to see you, we won't be able to hear you. So if you have a specific question, you'll just need to type that in the chat function there on the user interface. You will get a certificate of completion within 24 hours, I believe, of this concluding. We are not offering CE for this particular virtual advocacy day. We did on the last one, but we're not offering it for this one simply because this is kind of a repeat. So but you will get a certificate of completion. We may throw in some polling in there if we feel like it's necessary. So you'll see that pop up and you can answer accordingly. Before we get started on the bill review, Kyna and Heidi had already kind of mentioned it, but the associations are working hard on your behalf. We are your voice in the Capitol whenever you guys can't be there. Obviously, you guys are busy taking care of patients. You're doing the things that you do to make Missouri a better place to live and work. And in tandem with you, we are working on your behalf, representing your interests in the Capitol. We'll talk about some of those things that we're doing here in just a little bit, but a key function of your association, whether you're a member of Mona or whether you're a member of AMNP, is to be your voice in the Capitol when you can't be there. So, got anything to add to that, Heidi?
Nope, that sounds good. So again, we're very happy to have you on today. And like Derek said, if you have any questions throughout, you can either put them in the questions or the chat. And I'll be monitoring them while Derek and Kyna are talking and can interject any questions that you guys have at that point. And then when the legislators are on, Derek and I will monitor that to ask the legislators.
Sounds good. So let's go quickly through a kind of a review of all of the APRN bills that are out there. Last count that I had, I think we were tracking 125 healthcare related bills or professional registration related bills. Some of those may not have a direct effect on APRNs, but they're related to healthcare in some way and could become a vehicle for an amendment. So all total, that's kind of what we were tracking. As far as APRN bills are concerned that specifically deal with APRNs, I want to say there's around 18 of those, and we'll kind of go through some of those. Some of them are significant, some not so significant, but nevertheless, we're tracking those. First one, let's talk about some Senate bills. Senate Bill 8 was filed by Senator Jeannie Riddle. That was the Truth in Advertising bill that said basically if you had a doctorate degree, you would be able to call yourself a doctor. And also it would change the definition of surgery. That, as kind of can attest to, generated a lot of feedback from our APRNs in the state of Missouri, and rightfully so, because it was going to drastically change and alter the things that you could do in your practice. And so we had a ton of engagement on that, and we're able to keep that from being harmful. As a matter of fact, all of the harmful provisions, all of the harmful language contained in that original bill, we were able to get that stripped out. And so that has not come out of committee yet, but if it does come out of committee, it's presumably going to come out without the language that's harmful to APRNs. So if ever there was an illustration of what the associations are doing for you, that is certainly a great example of that demonstrates why it's necessary for the associations to be involved. Because if APRNs didn't have a voice and a seat at the table on that, then your practice could have been drastically affected as a result of that. So that's one of the key functions of your association. Senate Bill 41, you'll hear from Senator Burleson here in a little bit. That is an APRN licensure bill that has been referred to the Health and Pensions Committee. I will tell you that for the most part, we have a pretty good level of support in the Senate. However, the committee chairs in the 3 different committees that our bills could potentially go to are not the most favorable. So the committee chair for professional registration is Senator Jeannie Riddle. She has never been friendly to APRNs. The committee chair for health and pensions is Senator Onder, who is a physician and is not always favorable to APRNs, and in fact usually isn't. And then Senator Bill White chairs Seniors, Family, and Children, and he is certainly not favorable to APRNs as well. But aside from that, and don't get me wrong, those are huge obstacles, but aside from that, we generally do have a lot of support in the Senate. But I say that to kind of set the stage for Senate Bill 41. Senate Bill 41 is the APRN licensure bill that Senator Burleson's been working on for a couple or 3 years, and he's been working diligently on that, but he's got to get the committee chair to agree to hear that. So he'll give some perspective on that when he gets on. Senate Bill 177 is the bill that permitted nurse practitioners to order home health. That is in Senator Bill White's committee. He has offered up some language that is not what we would like to see, but we may see some movement on that here in the near future. If we don't see any movement on 177, we may see that language pop up in other bills. Senate Bill 193 is actually Senator Onder's bill. It removes the mileage from the collaborative practice agreement. Senator Onder actually hires APRNs now. And so when he's in Jefferson City, he's beyond that 75-mile range. And so he felt that it was necessary, just like we do, to remove that mileage restriction. And so that has not been heard in committee yet. But as you guys know, the governor suspended the geographic proximity rule back in March of last year. And so APRNs right now in collaborative practice agreements are not bound by that mileage restriction, at least until August 31st of this year. Senate Bill 223 has not been heard. That is a bill that prohibits non-compete agreements between physicians, APRNs, and nonprofit health systems and hospitals. So if you're working in one of those nonprofit systems, the non-competes would essentially be unenforceable. But that has not been heard in committee or made any steps forward. Senate Bill 293 is one of our priority bills. That is a barrier reduction bill. It basically eliminates all of the barriers. The only thing that it doesn't do is eliminate the collaborative practice agreement. And so some of you guys on the line may be wondering, why aren't we trying to move a full practice bill? Political realities being what they are, and kind of can attest to this as well, because she certainly has been working on these issues even longer than I have. Moving a full practice bill is extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible at this point. So we are looking at Senate Bill 293 and trying to move that, as well as the House companion bill on that. We'll talk about it here in just a second. Senate Bill 293 did have a hearing in the Capitol. What was that, about 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Right.
Something like that. And so that has not been moved out of committee, but we did have a strong showing of support in committee. So we appreciate everybody that engaged on that. Senate Bill 337 is a component of Senate Bill 8. Senate Bill 337 essentially was the redefinition of surgery. That hasn't gone anywhere. That hasn't been heard in committee, but if it does, you could be rest assured that we will come out with guns blazing on that. Senate Bill 584. That was filed by Senator Esslinger, and that is a smaller barrier reduction bill. Basically removes the 1-month collaboration period from the collaborative practice agreements, and also eliminates the language that requires the rural area need for telehealth. So it would basically expand telehealth options, and it will also take out that 1-month period. Connie, you want to add anything to that Senate bill before we move on to the House bills?
Yeah, that Senate Bill 584 was heard the same day as Senate Bill 293 that Derek mentioned. It is interesting that Senator Riddle was amenable to voting out Esslinger's lighter barrier reduction bill 584. So that has been voted out of committee unanimously. So we're hoping to get that amended on, as well as some of the other barrier reduction bills onto other issues. But that one out of all of them is still moving, which is interesting.
That's a good point. So, you know, any APRN bill that favors APRNs that comes out of Jeannie Riddle's bill is a huge win. She has been extraordinarily hostile towards APRNs, at least since I've been doing it, and I'm sure as long as Kyna's been doing it as well. So getting her to move that bill out of committee is a feat in and of itself. So as Kyna mentioned, that bill is moving, and we hope to amend that, among other things, on other bills. Shifting gears here to House bills. Now, House Bill 84 is just like Senate Bill 293. That's a complete barrier reduction bill. The only thing that it doesn't do is remove the collaborative practice agreement. That has been filed. It has been heard in committee. It has been passed out of committee on a 13-to-1 vote, and it was referred to rules, and rules has passed it out unanimously. So now we're just awaiting the debate on that on the House floor. We do have that teed up as an amendment so that can be offered on any other healthcare bills. So if they expand, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on the legislative process here, but if a healthcare bill is brought up in the House and we can add that language to it, we certainly will make that effort. And I'm sure one of the other representatives that's going to come on here will indicate what their interest is in it as well. So that bill is moving. Very favorable votes on that. Conversations that I've had, I'm sure kind of the same, generally seems to be a lot of support for that. But you know, we'll see what happens when it gets to the House floor.
Yeah, it was a great hearing, and we really appreciate the APRNs that traveled to Jefferson City to testify on that bill. It's a great hearing.
For sure. House Bill 502. So Representative Shore is on right now. That's his bill. That is like Senate Bill 41 in the Senate. It creates a license for APRNs. So Representative Shore has a very unique perspective on APRNs, as his wife actually is a nurse practitioner. So I don't know if she told him to do this or if he just found it in his heart that he thought it was a good idea to do it. But maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to ask him here in just a second. So that has not been heard in committee yet, but I'm sure Nick will give us some perspective on that. House Bill 768 is a bill that basically that was filed by Representative Grier. That is essentially a full practice bill, basically that says that you've got a right to practice in accordance with your education and training. So Derek will provide some perspective on that here in just a little bit, and that has not been referred or heard in committee either. House Bill 879 is basically the Senate Bill 8. That's the House version of Senate Bill 8. House Bill 916 is not an APRN bill. However, it basically provides a pathway to licensure for assisted physicians. So basically they would become physicians after a certain period of time. I don't recall the specifics on that, but that, as you can imagine, is problematic for us. That bill's not going anywhere. That was filed by Representative Patricia Durgis, who I'm sure you guys may have seen in the news as well as in the updates that we send out. She was indicted on a number of different fraud issues, and so she was an assistant physician and got kind of caught up in some fraudulent activity. So she's been indicted on that. She's still in the House, but I'm not sure how often she's there. I'm sure she's dealing with a lot of stuff. So House Bill 1159, excuse me, is the companion bill to Senate Bill 177. That's the one that allows APRNs to order home health and prescribe that as part of the treatment plan. House Bill 1224 is just like Senate Bill 584 that was Senator Esslinger's. So that basically removes that 1 month collaboration period in the rural area of need from telehealth. And then House Bill 1341 has been referred but not heard. That basically modifies some of the provisions relating to the titles of physicians. So those are the bills that we are watching very, very closely. As I mentioned earlier, we're tracking a number of different bills all throughout the process, a number of different amendments. And between now and May 14th? Is that the last day of session? Do you think I'd have that in my brain?
6 p.m.
Yeah, so that's the end goal there. May 14th at 6 p.m. is when the legislature will adjourn, sign, die, and all opportunities for us to move things will cease for the 2021 legislative session. So we're going to work very, very diligently for you guys over the next several weeks, and hopefully be able to add some APRN priorities into some of these other bills that are moving, and get some wins for you guys to make it better for you guys to practice here in the state of Missouri. I think if anything, the pandemic has demonstrated how essential and necessary APRNs are. It doesn't surprise me that Governor Parsons suspended those rules. Those rules are unnecessary, they're arbitrary, and he recognized that. And if he's willing to suspend those during the middle of the pandemic, then the legislature ought to pick those up and say, look, if it was good enough to do during the pandemic, it's good enough to do permanently. So we're going to work on permanently revoking those and making it easier for you to practice here in the state. We're going to have to do things incrementally. Like I said, the political reality is that getting a full practice bill across the finish line is next to impossible. But we're going to work incrementally to get some of those things chipped away so that your practice environment is better. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm sure that comes to the light of many. So, Connie, anything you want to add?
No, I think you've covered all the bills. As Derek said, sometimes we've put a good deal of time into just playing defense on trying to keep bad stuff off of things that can pop up at any minute. As you know, we've had a lot of bills moving in the right direction, and then someone will stick an amendment on it that is, very devastating or damaging to the profession, that we have to do a U-turn and pull it back. So we're happy that things are moving along. It's just the Senate has been pretty slow and dysfunctional so far this year. There have not been hardly any healthcare bills brought up. And then in the House, we really had a slow start, I think mainly because of the Tricia Durgis assistant physician problem. We were noting that none of our bills were getting referred to committee, and we heard a rumor that The speaker did not want to refer any of the assistant physician language, and as you know, some of our chapters open those chapters. And so we took a contingency of about 16 lobbyists in to visit with the speaker, and the next day he referred Representative Stevens' barrier reduction bill. So it's not that there's not support there, it's just there's a lot of hurdles we have to jump to get there. So Derek and you guys are doing a great job, and Heidi, appreciate all the action alerts you send out to keep people on their toes and engaged in the discussion. So no, I think you covered all the bills very well.
Okay.
So we have a couple of questions that's come through. So first, is this being recorded, Derek?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we can send that out after the call. Once we have the link, we'll send it to everybody.
Yeah, it'll take a little bit to get it all processed and sent to video.
So early next week. And then can a brief summary or list of those bills be sent out? Yes, sure. We can definitely do that. And then I'm going to skip that one and come back to it. So kind of real quick, so I know just briefly, we do also work not just on APRN bills, and there was a question about the workplace violence and the immunization bills. And, you know, we at Mona definitely spend a lot of time on those bills as well. So kind of, do you just want to give a quick update on those two? And then we'll come back to the APRN bills.
Sure. Yeah, we had two workplace violence bills filed. House Bill 398 was Representative Wallingford, if you remember, he filed that bill in the Senate last year, and now that he's back in the House, he's been very supportive of that. That had a hearing in the House Health Committee. We took a portion of that bill that related to hospitals not being able to retaliate against nurses, APRNs, RNs, if they did cite a workplace violence issue, they couldn't retaliate against them or fire them or put them on, you know, terrible hours just because of them taking action against someone. That language has been moved into House Bill 1022, which was sponsored by Representative Justin Hill. And that was voted out of House Insurance Committee unanimously. And I've been working with Representative Hill. He is going to amend that onto Senator Eigel's Senate Bill 26, which is coming up for debate in the House, to keep that language moving on the workplace safety. The other one, prescription drug monitoring, has a hearing in House Veterans this week, which is an interesting committee. We've never gone to that committee before versus one of the health or professional registration committees. What was the other issue you asked about, Heidi?
Immunizations.
Oh, yes. House Bill 37, which is sponsored by Susie Pollock, would allow parochial schools and private schools to also the list of, well, as you know, public schools cannot prohibit, or they can right now. What Susie Pollock's trying to do is saying that they cannot prohibit a student from enrolling in school if they haven't had their immunizations. And so we're trying to kill that bill. Unfortunately, she has it out there to be amended on a bunch of different bills. So we're still playing defense on that piece. But that is still moving, unfortunately. Yeah, that was House Bill 37.
And it's always interesting, kind of. Susie's been in our committees for some of our APRN bills and has been super supportive. So it's just a good example of, you know, our supporters. We agree with them on many topics, but sometimes we don't. So we do advocate that way as well. And it's understood at the Capitol and by us that that does happen. So those are some of the other issues that we are working on. And then just one other question about APRN bill. Do we see any problems with getting that one bill on the House calendar for debate? I think they meant that Senate bill, the one that's moving, SB 584. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that there are 80, last I looked, I don't know if Connor's looked lately, but last time I looked, there was 83 bills on the formal perfection calendar. They're probably going to roll that calendar here fairly soon over to the informal. So that bill coming up as a standalone bill, I don't know what Connor's perspective is on it, but as a standalone, with the limited amount of time we've got left, it's probably not going to come up as a standalone bill. But since it's out of committee, we can try to amend it onto other stuff.
Yeah, at this time in the game, time is not our friend. So if there's a bill that, the floor leader has said, if you can get your issue up and debated in less than, half an hour, we'll give you the floor time to do so. If not, we're going to lay it over. They did roll the calendar yesterday, Derek. So
okay.
They could go to it at any time. I think what's more favorable is trying to find a bill that's crossed over. Like Becky Ruth has House Bill 495, which is relating to telemedicine and some of those issues, and it totally opens the chapters we're talking about in expanding telehealth. And so that is already passed the House. It's in the Senate, and it has been referred to committee for a hearing. So that is a vehicle that we could hop on with some of this.
We actually talked to Becky about that in the rotunda a few weeks ago, I think, didn't we?
Right. Mm-hmm. And she's very supportive of our issues. So that's just going to be the challenge, is the upcoming, Representative Shore or others can tell you, it's just everything on the committee or on the calendar is relating to like taxes or public safety or some of the more pressing issues. So I think
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Hey, Derek, I'm sorry, this is Hannah Kelly, and I'm coming on late.
Hey, that's okay. No, we actually had you guys slated for 10 o'clock. So we did a bill review and kind of talked about where things were at. And so you're on, and then Nick is on too. So I guess now is as good a time as any to kind of bring everybody in on that. So I know Nick is in his office in St. Peter's, I believe. And
it's also known as God's country.
And so Representative Kelly is joining us via phone. I think she had another event that she had to be at, and I actually just talked to Representative Grier, and he was going to try to participate from his car as well. So these three individuals that you'll be hearing from there, plus Senator Burleson, are big supporters of APRNs, have been for a long time, and we really need the straight answer from Nick to know whether this was something that he did out of the goodness of his heart or if his wife forced him to do it.
I gotta admit, I am biased, as I've been hearing about these issues even before I was in office. But seeing that this is a common sense piece of legislation, it's been supported by both parties, voted out of the House for I think 2 or 3 years now. It's just a good bill, but I am very biased on how good it is.
We'll take it, whatever it takes. And then Representative Kelly, as most of you know, has been a longtime champion for APRNs ever since she's been in the House. She has been a staunch supporter of APRNs, even when it wasn't convenient for her to do that. And so she has a very rural district. She understands the needs and the challenges related to healthcare in the rural areas. And so I'll let her kind of speak to her involvement thus far and what she sees moving forward.
Hey guys, I appreciate the chance to be on here, Derek, and hello to my colleagues who have really taken the lead on these issues this year, and I'm glad to get to support them from the Assistant Majority Floor Leader standpoint. My focus in this new role is just to continually communicate the reasons why this legislation matters, and I had some of those conversations as late as yesterday with some folks. I feel like, as you guys know better than anybody, it's education is 90% of the ballgame, right? As to why this is important for all parts of the state. Selfishly, I know that every good representative thinks their district is God's country, but down here in the part of God's country in Wright County, it's a very important issue that, that folks want to see change made on, and I appreciate what Nick and Derek are doing and doing everything I can from behind the scenes to support them in that. So, just the articulation of the issue from the frontline professionals and from these hardworking guys that are pushing the issues forward through policy. I believe we will see things start to break and move forward. That is every intention, I have every intention of that myself. Whether it be, never what we want to see, but if we can keep making gains, that's the gradual road to progress, right? So, anyway, glad to be on the call and hope to have the chance to listen.
Yeah, that's a very important point. So the legislative process, for those of you that are somewhat unfamiliar with it, is a very, very complex process. And at any point during that process, there are multiple steps that can break down. Maybe through no fault of our own. Maybe our issue gets leveraged on something else. And so it's important to note that we could be doing everything that we need to do on our end, and things that are, tertiary to our issues are distracting or in some way affecting what we're able to do. So we appreciate it. Representative Kelly, as she mentioned, is in that assistant majority floor leader role. That's a very, very good role for an APRN scored be in within the Capitol. So we certainly appreciate that. I think sounds like Derek might be on. Representative Grier, were you able to dial in? I know he was having some challenges. Technology is great until it's not.
Derek always has challenges.
Derek, I wanted to ask Representative Kelly, since she's in leadership, if she sees any big healthcare bills coming to the House floor, or I should say Senate bills coming through the system that we might be possibly able to amend onto. Hannah, I was telling the folks earlier, there haven't been a lot of healthcare bills put on the calendar, even during House debate. And so
there hasn't. And this is one of the reasons why I was having conversations about the issue yesterday, was because of that very thing, kind of. And I understand Dr. Onder's bill is coming over. But that's the only one that, and I don't have that number with me right now, but that's the only one that I've caught wind of. But I plan on having a conversation with Dean first thing after we get through some meetings on Monday about what we see for the week and long term through the rest of the session, which is quickly approaching.
Okay. Yeah, Senator Onder, I don't know if you heard, did file a bill this year to remove the mileage barrier. Now that he has an APRN working for him more than 75 miles from the state capitol. So we would hope that he would be open to amending some of those barrier reductions that the governor waived during COVID, trying to get rid of those completely. And that would kind of be our goal for putting some language on his bill.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts from you, Nick, or Hannah, about kind of where things stand, just generally speaking, not necessarily specific to APRN legislation, but just where things are at in the session in terms of where things are headed, challenges that you foresee, things like that?
Well, I think the legislature's like a minefield. You don't know what you're going to step on. You could go through an entire field without hitting one of those things. But right now, the biggest challenge is, what can we amend? And that's typically my wheelhouse. Me and Hannah, the floor leader, we work together in trying to figure out how we can get our bills over to the Senate and increase the chances of it going to the governor's desk. And in the past, we've had great success doing that. We've had great success getting our own bills passed. So the House isn't the challenge. The Senate is the challenge. So now we got to look at what can we add on to, what can we kind of hijack with our good legislation And as of right now, I'm not seeing anything. I know you mentioned kind of Senate Bill 26, which I am the House handler of. I'm 100% fine with adding something onto that, but that is a bill dealing with law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights and protesting on a highway. So it's a little bit challenging, and doing so in a constitutional fashion where adversary groups such as the Doctors Lobby, if they were going to challenge it, we want to have the strongest case if we go into our courts. But as of right now, I'm not
Right.
seeing anything that we're able to hijack. But the session is still young, I guess you can say, with just a couple weeks left.
Yeah, so you can
Nick, I
expect,
couldn't agree more.
yeah, and you can expect over the next 4 weeks that it's going to be Christmas in April and May, because every bill that comes across is going to be a tree and everybody's looking to hang their ornament on it.
And they
So-
don't call me Saint Nick for no reason.
You got to work on that white beard, though, Nick. That's the only thing.
Well, I've got a few white hairs. I've got 2 girls now, and being in politics for 5 years, white hairs are coming.
I'm going to start calling you Saint Nick. Instead of Representative Schroer, I'm going to start calling you Saint Nick.
As soon as May hits, that's totally applicable.
That's funny. I believe Representative Grier is on the phone. I think he was having some challenges getting in the video. Derek, are you on?
I am on. Yeah, hi, Derek.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks for being on.
Yeah, you bet. Sorry, I'm not able to get the video link to work, but at least we're voice to voice here.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Nick and Hannah have been kind of sharing their perspective on APRN legislation and just generally their views in what's happening in the Capitol. So this House Bill 768 that you filed, this is a new bill for you. And Derek, for those of you that are unfamiliar, is kind of the go-to guy on professional registration stuff in the House. So Derek, do you just want to kind of provide your perspective on, number one, why you filed the legislation, and also what you see as your perspective, I guess, within the Capitol?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think somebody on the call has a lot of background noise that I'm picking up here. So just a reminder probably to everybody to mute your phones. Yeah, it really, the conversation around the bill that I filed is a broader one about occupational licensing in general, and something that I've been working on for several years. In fact, most of my time and energy in the Capitol has been spent on making sure that people that want to work are able to work, and ensuring that people that are in professions like the folks on your call are, that have the ability to get their skills and their services to the people that need them most. And so certainly, removing like the mileage restrictions is something that is tremendously important in providing access to the care that people need, is very important. And I believe also what the bill essentially does is it uncouples the APRNs from the docs and allows you all to practice more freely to get those resources in the hands of people that need them most. I just think it's so important that we not allow government to get in the way of people being able to get resources in the hands of people, and make it so that there are artificial barriers to entry and unjustifiable restrictions on people's ability to provide services and to work truly. So this is one that I feel very strongly about. It's one that I'm passionate about, particularly with this bill and the issues that we're working on here. And I will tell you a little bit of encouragement to the group. We've had some really, really big wins and successes here with this broader conversation over the last few years. Last year, we were able to pass the most comprehensive regulatory reform bill in the country. I got to go to the White House to celebrate the bill that we were able to pass in Missouri that allows more freedom when it comes to occupational licenses and allowing people to practice more freely. So there is positive movement. There's a lot of good conversation happening around it. And I think we are winning on this issue. We are winning in a way that will allow us in possibly this year and certainly in future years to make some real progress for the folks on this call and the people that are trying to get those resources in the hands of more Missourians.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your help on that for sure. when you look at the overall landscape here in Missouri related to APRN practice, there's no question that the restrictions are unnecessary, and that's been proven. That's not just a matter of opinion. That's been proven in other states, and it's also been proven here in Missouri, where the governor suspended those rules, and surprise, surprise, the sky hasn't fallen. Things are fine, and in fact, things are working better, especially as it relates to the mileage. Having the ability for folks to collaborate with anybody, because as most of you probably know, finding a collaborating physician is not always the easiest thing to do. So, like Derek said, these are common sense issues that deserve to be permanently revoked, and we're very, very grateful to have him and Nick and Hannah and others, fighting that battle for us in the Capitol.
Yes.
I will tell you that it's not always easy for them to take these issues. The physician lobby is a very, very strong lobby. They write very large checks and are able to support candidates that support their issues. And so we're fighting an uphill battle on that front. We certainly need everybody to support candidates as well. But it's a fight for us. There's three of us. Well, I guess four now that Kathy is on board. There's 3 or 4 of us in the Capitol on APRN issues versus a slew of others on the other side. So it's an uphill battle, but we're going to keep fighting it and use every resource that we have to help out. So big thanks to you guys that are in the House doing the yeoman's work. We certainly appreciate all that you guys are doing. Any questions for the legislators, Heidi? Did anything come in?
There was a question around the home health bill. It's just, is Representative Grier aware of the limitations that the home health bill will remove? So Derek or Kina, do you guys want to kind of explain that bill a little bit?
Yeah, so that was Senate Bill 177 that Senator Justin Brown filed in the Senate, and then I almost called him Senator again, Representative Wallingford filed it a little later in the House. This would go along with a federal law change that would allow APRNs to order home health. That was referred to Senator White's committee. As Derek mentioned earlier, while we have overwhelming support in the Senate, the 3 senators that probably are the worst on the APRN issues are Senator White, Senator Onder, and Senator Riddle. And so White has been holding up that bill and not allowing it to advance. His question in the hearing was, are APRNs qualified to order home health? Which I would argue, yes, 100%. But we are having difficulty getting that out of committee. That is another one that we would like to see, just because it's already been fixed on the federal law, and federal level, and all the states around us are adopting it. So we continue to work on that and add that to the list of the barrier reductions that we're trying to fight. So if you have, if you're an advocate or a nurse that could help us push that over the edge, and combating what the physicians are saying, we need your voice. So please jump in and help us on that.
Yeah, and the arguments of the physician lobby are continuing to fall flat. They continue to make the same arguments over and over again about APRNs are not as educated as physicians. What's some of the other ones? Their care proven safe and effective, blah, 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 blah. So it's the same thing over and over again. I believe we have very strong counter arguments to that, and we certainly have made those arguments very, very clear. But unfortunately, sometimes money talks in the Capitol, and they've got a number of supporters that are willing to do their bidding. So I think one of the things that it's important for folks to know and understand about the legislative process is we are not the only interest group in the Capitol. So all of these things, all of these pieces of legislation that make perfect sense to us as being very common sense, very straightforward, very helpful. There's somebody on the opposite side of that. So that's always important to make that note. I think sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the times, common sense does not prevail within the Capitol in Jefferson City, and certainly not in Washington, D.C.
And most of the time, that common sense doesn't exist in the Capitol in a lot of these committee hearings.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So
that's why I think with the governor waiving those barriers, we got a full year under our belt that show that this isn't the end of the world by allowing APRNs to practice more than 75 miles from their collaborator, or to do it without a 1-month preceptorship. You know, a lot of these are on case-by-case basis that are going to be outlined in your collaborative practice anyway. It doesn't need to be mandated by the state, the statute, or the Board of Healing Arts. That is one argument we haven't heard this year. Well, we've heard it, but it hasn't cropped up in legislation, is the physician groups are constantly wanting to put us under the Board of Healing Arts. And I think Senator Burleson and Senator Onder had that conversation. And after Senator Burleson asked him how many seats we could get for nurses on the Board of Healing Arts, because there's currently 9 physicians on that board, Senator Onder wasn't quite as hip on having that conversation. So, you know, there's no reason to be put under a board where you're regulated not by your peers, by another profession.
And just to add to that, you know, during the hearings, we had a physician and a nurse practitioner come in and do testimony around how they've started a small business and opening these smaller clinics. I think they had 5 or 6 small clinics that they've opened during the pandemic just throughout rural Missouri, that they're really utilizing telehealth, and they're able to do so because, and that one of their nurse practitioners, she's well over 100 miles away from the physician. And if these rules go back to normal, they're concerned that they're going to have to close some of these branches that they've opened up because the physicians aren't close enough to be collaborators anymore, both in telehealth as well as for their in-person visits as well. So it's not just a healthcare access issue, it's a small business issue as well. And I think, you know, the legislators who are on this call very much understand that, but it is an argument that we use with other legislators. And then we did have another question that came in, and they asked, when are Riddle, Onder, and White termed out? And, you know, we do look forward, and they might, Kiner or Derek might know when exactly, but the issue is there's always another Riddle, Onder, or White right behind them. And so the continuing of education of the new legislation.
That may be the funniest thing I've heard all week. Sorry, I just had to say.
Only if we had somebody to replace somebody when Senator Onder's termed out in 2022, who just so happens to live in that Senate district.
yeah, that's a great point. And so to that point there, this really illustrates the importance of you guys getting involved at the local level. So I'm sure Senator Burleson actually just got on, I think. I'm sure he can tell you how important it is to have people that are willing to go knock doors for you, attend events for you, walk.
Well, Senator Burleson might know someone with a phenomenal beard that may happen to live in Senate District 2, but he can go on and give us some information on that.
Yeah, well, we certainly encourage.
I wouldn't know anybody. I don't know anybody in 2 that is phenomenal with a beard.
Well, welcome, Senator Burleson. We appreciate you joining us. Hopefully, you didn't have any issues getting in. I know there's been some challenges with that. So,
oh yeah,
talking. What's that?
Nope, no problem at all.
Okay. Yeah, well, we've been talking with Representative Kelly, Representative Grier, and Representative Shore on kind of their perspective on APRN legislation in the Capitol, and then just generally speaking, what their views are on kind of where things are at and where things are headed. So would extend that same thing to you.
I've got some updates for you guys.
Great.
I had a situation this week where we had the chair of the Senate Committee of Professional Registration, and I sat down and went over items that we basically we mutually are trying to green light. In other words, items that she basically came to me and asked for help. Yesterday, she was stuck, and I said, "Well, if you want me to help, I need you to unstick this nursing bill, these nursing bills," and so we were able to get. I was able to move her off of a position and really kind of get that what I would say is Esslinger's legislation to where it's now going to be probably placed on nearly every professional registration bill that moves.
Great. That's fabulous.
So this is the importance of having supporters in the Senate. So whether that's Senator Burleson, who's been a longtime champion on our issues ever since he's been in the House, any potential people that might be running for the Senate that might be on the call, or people in leadership positions like Representative Kelly. This is exactly why it's important for us to support supporters.
So the first bill that we're going to be trying to make sure that it's going to be on is going to be voted out a committee hearing on Monday afternoon, and that's the bill that's related to shampooing. So the underlying bill is just I think it should be. It's kind of silly that you have to get a cosmetology license to shampoo hair, but that's what the bill is fixing, and so my ask of that chairwoman was to place Senator Esslinger's bill on that bill, along with any of the other. And then we went down all the different bills that are in professional registration, and kind of decided what bills were okay, what bills were not okay, what bills were not going to go into that omnibus. So once we've created that omnibus, then those bills become kind of greenlit, if you will, to be they're available to be put on everything else that's moving.
Great. Senator, did her Senate Bill 8, the titling bill, come up in that conversation?
It did, and I said it's not going anywhere.
Okay.
So that will not be placed on any bills. At this point, that bill is dead for the year.
Okay.
And it would be considered hostile if that were to be put on it.
Okay, good.
And she knows
Are you going to
that.
handle the shampooing bill then? Or are you going to handle it?
No, that's what my give to her was to give up being the handler in return to getting that bill done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So looking forward, Senator, looking forward through the end of the year, what do you see? I know that this is a difficult question to answer, but obviously there's been a little bit of dysfunction within the Senate. What do you see happening between now and the end of the year, whether it's related to APRN stuff or just generally speaking? Do you anticipate that you guys are going to start picking up a lot of different bills, or are you guys just going to work on omnibus stuff between now and the end of session? What's your thoughts on that?
No, there's a lot of really big bills that they've not been going to, and there's things like, and a lot of these bills your group probably doesn't care much for, or may not care much for, but they, like, for example, initiative petition reform, that is a massively important issue that will take up a lot of time on the floor. And I would say that it's enough of a priority that it will occupy it will be something that is pushed forward and will occupy time. I would say the voter ID is going to is similar, but it's also going to be put on the floor and will occupy time. We have the Second Amendment Preservation Act that is, because of what's happening nationally, it's being pushed. It's becoming heightened priority throughout this state and other states. If you looked around the country, within this week alone, I think there's been a dozen states that have passed out of one body or another language that's similar to this. It has become probably the most popular bill in the nation. Then then we have the education bill as well. So there are a lot of really, really difficult, very, very heavy lifts.
Yeah, you still have
And then
to
you
get
got the
through
budget.
budget. Yeah, which will take a week.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. So we have all these really heavy lifts that each of them will take a day or more. And in the Senate, when you say a day, that really takes 2 days, because every time we go through a big bill, then it's like the next day and a half, people are exhausted and they don't want to talk about anything. But usually during those other day and a half, that's when you can pick up a professional registration bill. And people are so exhausted and tired, they have no desire to really get into the weeds.
Yeah, and we saw that this past week, with Senate Bill 44, the Senate was until what, 6 a.m. on, what was it, Wednesday morning?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so our supporters can use that, especially in the Senate, they can use that as kind of leverage to move our things where, people are exhausted, like Senator Burley was saying, people are exhausted and they really have no bandwidth or desire to really delve into complex issues. So we take that opportunity really to kind of move our things forward if the opportunity presents itself. So go ahead.
If I may, I just want to add on to some comments that you said a few minutes ago, Derek, about the broader conversation as well, and kind of the reasoning behind why we're seeing progress on a lot of these issues. And I think part of the reason why we're being so successful right now in having these conversations is because, gosh, there's a lot of feedback. I hope everybody else isn't hearing that same thing I am.
Yeah, we can hear it. We can still hear you.
I was a little worried. It sounds like the predator's coming.
Yeah. Somebody just needs to mute their phone, probably. So
I think that might be you, Senator Burleson. I think that might be your phone.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. There you go. Yeah, I think there you go.
Perfect. So the reason why we're having success is because the conversation now, where it used to be, the opposition groups would say, this is for the health and safety and well-being of the public. We have to have these things in place. We've got to restrict access to APRNs. We've got to restrict access to all these other professionals because people are going to die if we don't, right? I mean, that's been the argument. Well, now we have seen so clearly this last year that is a debunked argument. There is no justifiable reason why we have these regulations in place. And it's really hard to argue against the fact that we haven't had them for a year now and nobody's died. The public health hasn't been endangered. So we're seeing these conversations move. And I'll give you a great example that happened just yesterday. Out of the House, we passed House Bill 475, which is related to nutritionists being able to practice in the state. Senator Burleson's got the exact same bill on the Senate side. Well, for years, the dietitians have successfully lobbied against providing access for nutritionists to practice in the state. The reason why they've been successful is because they argue that without those restrictions, the public health and safety is going to be endangered. Well, now we have ammunition to go in these conversations and articulate very clearly and show data and show the statistics to back it up to say that is simply not the case. That is a false argument. And in all these other states that allow access, there have been no cases of people being harmed. The same thing goes for these restrictions with APRNs. The same argument has been made for years and years and years, and now we have seen so clearly, and people like Derek and Kina are able to come into the Capitol and able to provide people the information to be educated and understand that the arguments the other side is making simply aren't true. It's a false narrative. And so my last little comment will just be a plug for the folks you have working for you. These are some of the best, most skillful professionals in the lobby industry in Jefferson City. So you guys have picked a good crew to be working your issue, because they're being successful on a lot of other stuff too. And they've got some really good information to be sharing with people. And I think we're going to continue to see great progress made on this, as long as we keep you guys engaged, as long as you all, the ones who are out there practicing, continue to let your voices be heard. And as long as you continue to support that dialogue. We're working hard in the Capitol to get that word out, to make sure that we press on these issues and don't let the other side get away with that false narrative.
Great points.
Well put, Representative Grier. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, great points there, especially about us. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, we certainly appreciate your work on it. And those are very, very valid points that you were making, and I'm sure that others agree. The engagement of our APRNs is absolutely critical for us moving things forward. So when we talk about engagement, what do we mean by that? We mean when we send out a call to action, we really need you to do that. That's not just us sending that out just to send out another email. We really need you to call, write, email, text, visit with your elected officials. Secondly, engage locally. They need to put the local face on these issues, and they need to know that as their constituents, that these issues are very, very real in the areas that they represent. And so putting that local face on it, whether that's going and attending, some of these legislators have various different kind of coffees, Friday morning coffees or things like that, whatever events that they're having in their area, showing up, not to hassle them, not to berate them and talk about various different things, but to kind of establish a relationship of trust with these individuals, so that they know that they can use you for a resource. And then also engage, with if you have the ability to support them in their reelection efforts, then that is also very, very important. That's one thing that a lot of people don't ever want to talk about, is what it takes for these folks to run successful campaigns. It takes resources, and I'm not just talking about financial resources. I'm talking about people. They need folks making phone calls on their behalf, stuffing, mailers, any number of different things where you guys can contribute. That's one of the things that the opposition does very, very well, is they engage by writing checks and helping out. And so we need to try to level the playing field on that. We realize that APRNs aren't going to be able to contribute at the same levels financially, maybe that the physicians are, but any little bit helps. And we would certainly encourage you guys to support these people that support us, because we need to retain these people as our supporters in the Capitol, because as you've heard very, very eloquently from all of them, they're passionate about carrying our issues and moving our issues forward. So we certainly appreciate their support. I know we're up against time here, but we very, very much appreciate Senator Burleson, Representative Kelly, Representative Grier, Representative Schroer being on. It worked out better to do it on a Friday than it did on a Thursday, it sounds like. So any last minute questions for these folks before we adjourn here? Looks like one just came in here. Let me look.
It was just a thank you. Just wanted to say, as a student, this has been incredibly informative and helpful, and I'm truly appreciative of all your efforts. So we do very much thank our representatives and senators for all of the help that they've given us on this issue over the years.
For sure. So Senator Burleson, Representative, any of the three representatives, do you guys have any closing comments that you'd like to make?
Well, I just think that the thanks needs to go to, especially in 2020 and 2021, to the healthcare workers, whether it's nurses, APRNs. It's been probably the craziest year you all have had to deal with. I know in my family, in my household, it was. So thank you to you all, and continue the great work. And just know that you've got 4 staunch supporters here in the Missouri House, 3 on the line here that are working for you. But anything that we can do to make your lives better while you're being the true superheroes, you just let us know.
Thank you, Representative.
I would say
Thank you.
ditto to that, Nick. Just appreciate how you guys are willing to come to the table and articulate the need for these issues to keep moving forward one step at a time. And as Representative Grier said, you've got great people working on your behalf, both from the lobbying corps and folks like ourselves in the House who are dedicated to seeing long-term results, and the Senate as well with Senator Burleson. So
Thank you, Representative.
Yeah. Senator Burleson, you're still on mute. If you've got any last minute comments you want to make.
We're going to try to get it done. Working like crazy. We'll claw, fight, and bite just to do anything we can to get it across the finish line.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you to the panelists. Representative Grier, I'm not sure if you're still on, but if you are, any last minute comments?
Oh, I think I've said my piece. The only closing comment I would have is keep up the pressure. You can't let that down. We're making good progress, and now is not the time to sit on our laurels. Now is the time to continue to be active. Now is the time to continue engaging. And it's a long time between sessions, so don't forget about how important all this engagement is over the summer and into the fall. That's where the foundation work can be laid for making significant progress next year. I want to get rid of all of this stuff next year. I mean, I think we can go the full distance next year, but we got to lay the foundation work now to have a successful session next year, starting in January. So keep up the good work.
Great points.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody. Heidi, any last minute thoughts?
No, I just want to thank everybody for participating, and there's a lot of voices out there that carry a lot of weight. So get involved, join the process.
Yes, and just to echo what both Derek and Kina said, as well as we appreciate your membership, it allows us to continue to do the work that we are doing. I always like to say that all of us together will do a better job than if we're all divided. So by joining our voices together, by joining associations, so encouraging your colleagues to join one or both, we'd love if you join both associations, is very important to the continued success that we have been having.
For sure. Yeah. And we also would encourage you to, you guys send out legislative updates every week, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we do the same thing. That's our effort to keep you guys informed on what's going on in the Capitol. I realize that if you're not a policy nerd like Kina and I, that those may be less interesting to you than they are to us. But that's our effort at keeping you guys informed on what's going on in the Capitol. And so if you ever have any questions about that stuff, just don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here as a resource for you. It doesn't matter whether you're a MONA member or an AMNP member. If you have a question about something, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you guys and be the resource that you need. So with that, I think we'll turn it off and wish you guys a great weekend. Thank you so much to Senator Burleson, Representative Kelly, Representative Grier, and Representative Schroer for attending today. I know they have very, very busy schedules and appreciate them taking time out of them to join us here today. And thank you to everybody else who attended. My contact info, I'll just throw it out there right now. My email address, or the email address for the Association of Nurse Practitioners at MissouriNP.org. My cell phone number 573-280-8500. Office number for AMNP 573-533-0562. Heidi, you want to provide your contact info?
Yeah, my email is director@MissouriNurses.org. The office phone number is 573-636 4623, extension 103, and my cell number is area code 814-883-6851. I've had that number since 2000 and I just can't give it up, despite it not being a Missouri area code, but that still reaches me.
Okay. Thanks everybody for attending. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any questions that pop up in your mind after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer them. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.